What's up, everybody? Team Armor Light 1312 coming to you live tonight, Fireside. You know, the theme going on right now is personal testimony. Last week you heard Richie getting into anger, released a video this afternoon on revenge. And Revelations 12:11 says the two best weapons we have to fight the devil is the bloodshed of Jesus and the word of our testimonies. So tonight, we're going to get into my testimony. And for me, this is something I'm super passionate about because I believe every person on earth is given some demon that they have to battle, no matter what it is. But when you overcome it, your testimony is what gives light and hope to all the people you're going to meet over the course of your life.
So Justin, what is your story? What's your demon?
Honestly, man, people look at me, they see my energy level, my positivity, you know, I'm motivated, usually pretty fired up. When I tell them my struggle, they never believe me. My dealings are honestly with anxiety, depression, and suicide. Just from being a little kid all the way up to very recently, that's just been the demon that I've had. Is my struggle is never necessarily physically. You know, God blessed me with health and ability to stay in shape and stuff. The war zone always took place in the mind.
When was the first time you can remember feeling anxious, depressed?
Sure, that's a good question. The first big episode, so to speak, would be when I was in the 5th grade. I guess in that time frame, you're probably 10, 11 years old. And I can't remember now what the cause was necessarily, but I remember I had no desire to go to school. It would freak me out. These thoughts would start going, and it was like these cataclysmic thoughts of just like, you know, one thing, what if this happens? What if this happens? And then it's like, next thing you know, within minutes, your mind's in a whirlwind, and you've just imagined a worst-case scenario of what could happen. And I guess just being that age, too, you know, you're not by any means really developed to handle stuff like that, I don't believe. And I just remember, man, not being able to sleep. I wouldn't have to be at school till 8 o'clock in the morning or so, but I'd be up at 4:30 in the morning, like, shaking, like, having panic attacks, and, like, having that, like, tightness within me, and, like, that cold, clammy hands, and, like, you just feel like you're so rigid, and just constantly, like, shaking. Those thoughts is what really was the fuel. And, you know, I really got to the point, man, I know sometimes it's hard to think about, 11 years old, standing in my bathroom with a big bottle of Tylenol, you know, 200 to 300, you know, pills in it, saying to myself, I have no idea how I can ever go through life like this. I am never going to be productive. I can't, why would I put myself through this for the next 80 years or whatever? Why would I do that? Like, how can I function like that? What is my worth? You know, like, what am I ever going to accomplish if I can't even deal with this? You know, I was literally looking in the mirror and I was like, this is it, man. You know, I don't know, it's whatever. And this is probably the first time, looking back now, I didn't know at the time, where I feel like God spoke to me. Because I remember holding the bottle, looking in the mirror, and basically being like, this is it. And I remember looking out the window and up into the sky. It was a winter day, and I was just, you know, you see the deadness of the trees because they got no leaves and whatever. And it was like this voice came down and said, think about your mom. And I remember putting the bottle down, putting my head down, and saying to myself, man, what's going to happen to my mom now? She's going to go on with the rest of her life now having to deal with the fact that her son just committed suicide at age 11. And I said to myself, I'm not willing right now to necessarily live for me, but I'm gonna have to live through mom. I have no idea how I'm gonna do this, but I have to.
Was there anyone, I mean, obviously your mom, but anyone else that really reached out to you?
You know, honestly, at that stage in life, I did have a lot of friends who were concerned because they saw me dropping weight. I started coming in with like those dark black circles around my eyes because I just straight up wasn't sleeping for like days on end. I was barely eating. You know, and I was very like reserved and like pulled away from people. Like I was in class, I was usually the class clown. But when I was in that mode, I was kind of just sitting in the corner and not talking. And when people would try and talk to me, it'd be very like quick answers on my end to kind of just end the convo because for some reason, like you want to stay in that mindset, even though you know you shouldn't. You know, but truthfully, man, at that stage of the game in life, my mom was that person, that rock that kept me going and kind of held me up.
How did your mom do that?
You know, just be real with you, she dealt with a lot of what I went through herself as a kid, and even now as an adult, she gets very anxious. So she understood at least, which helped me. Because the hardest part is trying to explain to people for them to understand what you're going through, because for someone who doesn't deal with that, they don't get it. And that's fine, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to explain if you don't go through it. She was very nurturing and loving like a mom, but when it came time to press forward, you know, she'd show that tough love. Like, I literally would get so nervous before school every morning, and like, you know when you go to play sports, like maybe it's that first game of the season, and you're like, oh man, I'm kind of nervous, and your guts get a little bit twisted up, and you almost feel sick or something. For me, it was like 100-fold of that, to the point where I literally would puke every morning. And she would always look at me and had this saying of, buck up, you're going to school. And she would take 2 of those plastic shopping bags, you know, you always get, and everybody's family keeps like 900 of them always in their garage. And she would give me like 2 or 3 of them, and she'd be like, take these if you feel sick on the bus, use them to throw up in. And I'd be like, man, you've got to be kidding me. And looking back now at age 28, that was kind of the start, so to speak, of that mental toughness that I was going to have to develop. I obviously had no idea about that at the time, but, you know, that would be kind of how she helped out.